All right. Hello, 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 my friends. Looks like we are live. Come on in. Come on in. I am talking about today, our live 30-minute session is going to be focused on cultivating major gifts amid year-end chaos. Now, who's feeling the year-end chaos right now? Raise your hand. I know whether you're in a small, medium, or large shop, that you're probably experiencing this sense of year-end chaos, that there's a great deal of urgency, that the clock is ticking, that so many things are happening. It becomes really tricky to keep your focus on those all-important major gift relationships. So that's why I thought this was a timely topic. Let's get together and let's workshop on some ways that you can make sure that you are keeping your focus on cultivating those all-important major gift relationships, no matter what is happening in your shop right now. So come on in if you're just joining us. If we haven't met yet, my name is Emma Luzzi, and I help major gift fundraisers build the skills, the strategies, and the systems that they need to hit their ambitious campaign goals. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Now, if this is your first time coming to one of my live sessions, first, I want to say welcome. Second, I want to let you know this is a very interactive format. This is one of the reasons I just love doing LinkedIn Live. So I want you to go ahead and let me know, where are you joining us from? Go ahead and drop that in the comments. And I'm going to be asking you to participate throughout our session today. One of the things that I find that is great about these sessions is it actually helps you build a sense of community with your colleagues, in addition to getting ideas from me. But I really love the fact that we can kind of tap into the wisdom of the room, so to speak, when we're together. So I'm going to be asking for your thoughts, for your feedback, for your next steps. And we are going to be sharing today all about how to cultivate major gifts amid year-end chaos. So if you're just joining, before we dive in, I would love to hear from you. Where are you joining us from? I see someone joining from Toronto. That's great. Now, I sometimes can see your name on my streaming platform and I sometimes can't. So bear with me if I do see your name or I don't see your name. It tends to be a bit random in that sense. So I see folks are just joining us now. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in, because as you probably know, if you've joined us before, I like to make sure that we keep to our 30 minutes together and that you get lots of value over this. So I'm going to talk first and foremost about the idea of protecting your focus, because you have so many competing demands on your time this year. You really do have to be proactive about protecting your focus. I want to talk here about one of the reasons why it's actually so challenging, and what some of the hello, Sherry coming. Oh, Nicole, nice to see you. Lots of familiar faces popping in from Calgary, Saskatoon, Toronto. We're seeing our Canadians represented strong today. I love it. One of the reasons why it becomes so difficult to stay focused on major gifts during your year-end fundraising season is the whole idea of what is urgent and important and what is not urgent and important. So you may have heard this principle before. It's pretty common to be talking about. It's actually based on a principle that Eisenhower taught. It's called the Eisenhower matrix. But to tell you how this really impacts major gifts, major gift relationship cultivation tends to be important, but not urgent. And what I mean by that is there are not necessarily any natural built-in deadlines when it comes to cultivating your individual major donors. Now, when you take that and you contrast that idea with the fact that you are also juggling many things that are important and urgent, in the sense that they have clear deadlines attached. They absolutely need to be dropped by a certain date, right? You have a deadline for a foundation grant proposal you need to get in by, December 15th. So you are facing a significant challenge in that way, whether you're in a small, medium, or large shop. is that you are competing, your major gift work is competing against things that are both urgent and important. You're competing against things that have natural built-in deadlines, things that must be done by a certain date. So that's why it's so important. You really need to be strategic and proactive about actually creating some structure and some urgency around building your major gift relationships. Otherwise, it's so easy for them to kind of get pushed off the plate this time of year. So I'm going to share with you some of my very favorite strategies for making sure that you stay focused on those important but not urgent major gift relationships at this high pressure time of year. So my first idea I want to share with you is something you may have heard before. Sometimes when I share this, people are like, I know this already. But the key here is, are you actually implementing it? Because you may know it, but if you're not actually doing it, it's not going to have any impact. So that first idea is really about blocking out time in your calendar and protecting that time to focus on your major gift relationship cultivation. This could be as little as 1 to 2 hours a week. The key here really is that you do it, that you protect it, and that you actually make sure that you're getting to those priorities. I think a mistake I often see here as it relates to this idea of time blocking or calendarizing these important but not urgent priorities. One of the biggest mistakes that I see is that people try and go big or go home. They go big too quickly right out of the gate. So maybe they're trying to block out 3 hours a day of focus time every morning to be focusing on their major gift work. The problem there is when you go too big too quickly and it's not actually something that you're going to be able to achieve, it's very easy to get discouraged, get disappointed and sort of say, okay, this isn't working, so I'm just going to write this idea off altogether. So I want to encourage you to implement this in like a small and manageable way, especially this close to year end. And I want to encourage you to block a time out on your calendar to be focusing on cultivating those major gift relationships. All right. And I want to hear from you. Are you already using time blocking or calendarizing? How's it working? Are you implementing it this time of year? I just want to hear from you around, is this helpful? Is it something that you do? Is it something that you would like to try? And we can brainstorm here as well. If you're finding it a little difficult this time of year to actually stick to that time block that you've committed to. Another idea I wanted to share with you is this idea of setting 3 daily big priorities, right? This is kind of counter to the idea a lot of us use, which is maybe keeping that long running to-do list. Instead, you're like, okay, what are my 3 top priorities today, period? That's all I'm going to be thinking about. If I get to the end of this day and I've tackled those 3 big priorities, check, today has been a success. I'm hearing from Sherry, no, needing to get better at this around blocking out that time. I love that. And you know what? We're all here to support you and to cheer you on, and you are not alone in having that challenge. So maybe try smaller, get some of those smaller times in. And you might even want to try the second tip that I shared just around setting those 3 daily priorities and seeing your day as a success if you've actually gotten to those. I want to make that even lower pressure. You can play with that depending upon your schedule. And you could say, well, you know what? I'm actually just want to set 3 weekly priorities. And if I get to the end of the week and I've achieved my weekly priorities, then this week has been a success. So play with all of these ideas and implement them in ways that work for you. One of my biggest takeaways here I want you to leave with today is, let's make this realistic, right? Let's make this realistic. There's so much pressure on you and your time this time of year. So just, if you can just implement that idea of even 1 hour a day, this can add, or even, 1 hour a day, or even 1 protected hour of time a week, this can add up significantly over the course of time by the time of year end. I love this. I see, sorry, LinkedIn user, I don't see your name. Yes, each part of my portfolio gets a block of my time. Woo, that is some very fine system making there. I love that. I love that. A couple of other ideas I wanted to share with you that are just manageable and bite-sized to help you is you could decide, I want to do 1 meaningful donor touch a day. right? So you could say once every day, I want to make sure I'm picking up the phone and I'm making that call and that I'm trying to have that meaningful conversation with my donor. So you can see the theme here and you can kind of choose your own adventure, but the key is to think about it, think about what works for you, make that commitment and make sure that it's manageable so that you can kind of carve out that manageable piece of time to make sure that you're focusing on these things that matter. All right. And I think the final idea I wanted to share here is this idea of, having that follow-up process that is good for you that you will use, right? So for some folks, that may actually be visual. I'm a very visual learner, so I like to sometimes have the rest of the year up on my, I like to have the month up on my wall. I like to see what's coming. I like to be able to check things off as I'm doing them. So maybe that's a system that will work for you. So take all of this, adapt it, and use it for yourself if you're more of a visual learner, if you're someone who does. Nicole, hello, Nicole. Nicole, yes, Nicole. I often teach this time of year. Hi, Nicole. It's so good to see you. So yes. And you learned this from last year. Yes. All right. Oh my gosh, I love this. So I'm seeing you learned it last year and you're implementing it. So that is great news. That's great news. So yeah, make sure whatever this is, whatever habit you're introducing here, that you are ensuring it's something that you'll use. It's realistic for you in terms of the amount of time you have available, that you're not kind of over scheduling or overextending yourself. Maybe you're leaving your comfort zone a little bit, but you're not creating this whole unmanageable, undoable kind of system that's not going to work for you. Really is about creating these like small habits, these small, easy to accomplish habits to help you keep that momentum up this time of year with your major donors. All right, so we talked about protecting your focus. Now, I'd love to hear from you. If you have not chimed in yet, are there any ideas already that you want to take away in terms of and implement in terms of protecting your focus? So do you want to be time blocking more? Do you want to adapt this idea of 3 daily priorities, or maybe it's even 3 weekly priorities? Are you someone it might work better for that you set yourself a goal that's like, I want to reach out to 1 meaningful major donor touch a day. That's going to be my plan for for every week between now and the end of the year. So let me know what resonates and what you'd like to take away and try to keep your focus amid this year-end chaos. Speaking of chaos, I actually wanted to talk about something a little bit different now that's not necessarily a concrete strategy, but it's more of a mindset shift that I think is really important at this time of year. And that is the whole idea of cultivating calm, because calm is really contagious. Now, when I talk about cultivating calm, I really am wanting to frame this in terms of the way that donors can sense your energy, right? Colleagues can sense your energy. And sometimes when we're in this chaos of year end, we're in this very urgent culture that can kind of get us worked up as well, right? So we're trying to do our donor cultivation. We're trying to have these meaningful conversations, and we're coming into them with like this frantic, urgent energy, right? It can be very difficult to not carry that along with us when we're surrounded by it, right? This culture of urgency is really common at nonprofits. And I think it really ramps up to the nth degree at this time of year. So I really want you to be thinking about, okay, maybe before I'm picking up the phone, I'm pausing, I'm taking a few deep breaths, that I'm really being mindful, pardon me, about what kind of energy I'm bringing into my donor conversations, because they will really pick up on that. I think too, one thing that can be easy for donors to pick up on is this sort of, and you're not doing this intentionally, but sometimes it's created by our goals, is that we come into these relationships with a bit of like a desperate energy as well, where it's like, okay, we have a goal to meet. Sometimes that means that we're rushing our solicitations. So I really want you to be mindful about that this time of year as well, knowing how much pressure you're often under to actually be hitting certain financial targets. How is that showing up in your donor relationship building and in your donor conversations? We want to be very careful about that, right? We want to be very mindful about that. Because what I find is that donors are really going to respond when you lead them, when you step into a leadership role in conversations with them and bring that calm and confident energy. And when I say that, what it doesn't mean glossing over the challenges you're having or the problems you're having. It doesn't mean, toxic positivity. But what it does mean is just keeping that grounded, calm, and confident energy, even when you are talking about those difficult situations, a difficult challenge that you're facing. And just really thinking about that as like, how am I showing up and what kind of energy am I bringing to this call? Do I need to like slow down a little bit? Alternatively, do I need to like raise my energy a little bit if I'm somebody who's feeling like a little low energy in the afternoon, for example? So that's one important takeaway, I think, is calm is contagious, your energy is contagious, and your donors are really going to be picking up on that. So be mindful about it, whether you need to calm down that sort of sense of frantic urgency that you may be picking up from your colleagues, whether you need to boost your energy a little bit if you're, feeling tired, feeling run down, like a lot of us are at this time of year. Just thinking about that. What energy am I bringing into this conversation with the donor? Now, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what's the perfect word for you that would describe how you want to show up when you're talking with your donors, when you're having meaningful conversations with your donors. Just give me one word that kind of embodies how you want to show up, what kind of energy you want to bring when you're having these donor meetings. So sometimes just setting the intention and reminding yourself before you get on a call, before you go out to a meeting, can make a world of difference. Now, I would be remiss, I feel like, if I did not talk about the fact that you need to actually protect your own energy this time of year. I'm finding probably a lot of donors as well. Finding a lot of fundraisers are really running on empty this time of year. So also want you to be thinking about the fact, how are you protecting your time? How are you protecting your boundaries outside of work? Right? Is this a kind of time of year that you're working 12-hour days? Hopefully not. Do you need to put any boundaries on your start time and your finish time so that you are showing up in the best possible way in those donor relationships? So that's an important piece of the puzzle as well when we're talking about your energy. We're not just all bottomless wells of energy. We need to actually refill our energy, refill our cup, take care of ourselves this time of year. And a lot of that times that does look like setting boundaries on our start and our finish time, not checking emails in the evenings and weekends. Sometimes that looks like making sure that you're taking your breaks and getting out, taking a walk around the block, getting some fresh air, getting out in nature. But whatever works for you when we're thinking about our energy and how we're showing up, the kind of energy we're bringing into our major donor relationships, a big piece of that puzzle is also how we're taking care of ourselves and how we're refilling that energy cup. I love that. Okay, Nicole is saying the word she wants to bring to the word that she wants to keep in mind when she's bringing to the relationship is, or the conversation is, expertise. I like that. Okay, that's an interesting one. Layla is asking, does anyone have a suggestion about how to broach year-end giving that doesn't feel like I'm on a deadline? That's a tough one for sure. I think the fact that this time of year has so many deadlines attached to it, it can be really challenging not to kind of like get swept up in all of that. But yeah, the whole idea of this conversation today is just finding some ways that are realistic for you, that you can carve out a little bit of time so that you don't get swept away, so that you can protect that time in a way that's realistic for you, Layla. So if you didn't have a chance to catch up on that first kind of practical piece of the conversation, I'd say definitely hop in and watch the replay when we're done, because I share a few ways you can protect your time when it comes to talking about building those major donor relationships. Because our reality is, especially if we're in a small or medium shop, but even in large shops, is the deadline-driven nature of year-end giving. It's not something that we can get away from. So rather than trying to, change it or control it, how can we make it more manageable, more easy? How can we implement small steps to get through and protect our energy and protect our time to get through between now and the end of the year? And a big part, like I said, that you'll hear me talking about a lot is just being realistic, right? We don't want to set this complex system. We don't want to say, I'm going to have a meaningful conversation with my top, 50 donors. Maybe you are if you're dedicated to major gifts, but for most folks, it may look more like I want to do a meaningful touch point with my top 10 donors. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 25. So the key here is, what is realistic for you, right? Maybe it stretches you a little bit, but don't overestimate what you can get done between now and the end of the year, because you have so many competing priorities. Okay, I'm hearing more words about how people want to show up both to their donor meetings, but I mean, your fundraising in general. I like this idea. Shannon shared authenticity. I like that one. Showing up in a really authentic way with your donors. Love that. Sherry is sharing confidence. I hear that one a lot, that fundraisers really want to show up with more confidence in their meetings, right? It can be really challenging when donors are all different, and that can sometimes impact your level of confidence in terms of, what are they interested in? How do they like to have conversations? How do they engage with you? What are their preferences? And that can definitely impact our sense of confidence as we go into the meetings. But confidence definitely is one of those great things that you can kind of cultivate, that you can work on. And the great news is, I often say, is confidence is a skill that can be built, right? With practice, is that the more donor meetings you're doing, the more your confidence can grow, the more you can learn from things. Okay, that worked really well. The more you can learn from things that didn't work well. And then you can think about, okay, how am I going to adapt my approach next time? I'm summarizing this kind of skill of like how we build confidence and learn from our meetings as we go. Because I think it's a myth, this idea that all of us are going to show up in this way that is perfectly fully formed, that I'm going to be a perfect major gift fundraiser and know exactly what to do all the time. I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm still learning. And I think bringing that beginner's mind to your fundraising and to your donor relationships can actually be really beneficial, especially if you're building that true unshakable confidence. That true confidence comes from the doing, the learning from what you did well, and the sometimes making mistakes. It's going to happen no matter how much experience you have, and then learning from what you would like to do differently next time. So hopefully that helps. I just wanted to, it's my sideline, my side chat about confidence, because I hear a lot of folks wanting to build confidence, especially when it comes to their major gift relationships. And it's definitely a skill, and it's definitely one you can work on, and making sure that you don't expect yourself to be absolutely perfect all the time. Recognizing that you are going to continue making mistakes and learning as you go is a big part of that confidence building. All right, I love talking about confidence. I got off on a bit of a sidebar there, but I think that one's really important, and is a great example of something you need to be thinking about this time of year as well, when you're thinking about showing up with those donors in a grounded, calm, and confident way. I love this. All right, I want to be mindful of not running out of time. So I'm going to go straight to my theme 3 here. My theme 3 is actually inviting shared responsibility. So when I say that, I want you to start thinking about how can you actually share this load that is on your shoulders right now. And this goes for anyone, whether you are one person wearing all the hats in a shop, whether you're at a larger shop with like a very focused portfolio. You can actually invite shared responsibility within your organization. You don't have to carry all of this on your own. I notice this happens a lot with fundraisers, with ambitious goals. Some of us tend to be a bit of type A personalities. We really take that responsibility onto our own shoulders, and we're like, this is it. It's all mine. Whether this happens or doesn't happen, whether we're successful, whether we hit our targets, it's all on my shoulders. And I'm here to tell you that definitely, especially this time of year, if we are going to make it through to the end and be as successful as possible, now is the time to invite shared responsibility in your organization. And there's a few ways this can look from a practical perspective. One is bringing your CEO or your board members into the simple donor touches. So, maybe you're inviting your ED or your CEO to make a key thank you call if that's not something you do on a regular basis. Maybe you're asking a board member to handwrite a note. This can be a wonderful way and a low lift way to get your board involved in fundraising in a way that doesn't necessarily involve them, going out and soliciting folks. Maybe that is a part of your board expectations, but I hear from a lot of fundraisers that it's really challenging to get their board engaged in fundraising, and getting them started in a way that's easy, in a way that helps them connect with donors, really build their confidence, and also be hearing important key messages from donors, be hearing how much the work has an impact on them and on their lives. That can be a really great way to start building up that interest and that responsibility taking for fundraising. But I think the key message here for me is really, how do you make this more manageable for yourself as a fundraiser in terms of sharing this responsibility? Who else can help? Who else can I bring into those thank you calls? What role might my CEO have this time of year? What role might my board members have at this time of year? So I can really, be getting other folks engaged, involved, and having a sense of responsibility for fundraising success at our organization. All right, so I'm going to pause here, and I want to ask folks, what is one thing you want to take away from today? It could be something practical. It could be a mindset shift. And I'll remind you kind of the key things we talked about today. They were this idea of protecting that time and protecting that focus, and recognizing that major gift relationships and fundraisings, when it comes to individual donors especially, it's important, but it's not urgent. So you actually have to build a structure around it that works for you to make sure that you actually prioritize it and get to it, especially in the face of all of those urgent and important deadlines, especially at year end. So that's when it's protecting my focus and protecting the investment of time in my major gifts. My second idea I wanted to share with you is this mindset shift. What energy are you bringing into your meetings with donors, right? Are you bringing that calm, confident, grounded energy? And how are you actually protecting and refilling that energy outside of work and during work hours? Whether that's taking breaks, whether that's making sure you're protecting your boundaries around your start and your finish time, whatever that looks like, figure out what that is for you. And remember that the energy that you bring to this time of year into fundraising is just as important as any of these other very concrete strategies. And you may like this idea of thinking about a word that you want to embody when you show up to your donor relationships. I heard a couple today. I heard confidence. I heard authenticity. I love this. So that was the second idea. Third big idea is invite shared responsibility. This is not something that is just resting on your shoulders, no matter what role you're in, no matter how high you are in the organization. You have an opportunity to share responsibility, whether that's inviting your CEO to make a donor thank you call, whether that's engaging your board in simple ways like writing donor thank you notes. So think about how you might be able to share the responsibility, so this is not exclusively on your shoulders, because success in fundraising can never be only one person's job. All right. So I love this. Folks are just sharing this idea. I love this idea of having one meaningful donor touch a day. I like that, Sheena. That's a great goal. I mean, that's a huge goal to take away. If you think between now and the end of the year, how many meaningful donor touches that you can achieve if you do just one a day, amazing. And yes, I would agree. Blocking that in would be really helpful for you for sure. So folks, let me know before you go, keeping an eye on the time. Let me know before you go, what do you want to take away and implement. We'll help keep you accountable. What do you want to take away and implement from this session today? And before I go, I also want to make sure if you enjoyed this live session, if this was your first time here, please go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter. You'll get invitations to sessions like this. Also, we have the addition of Major Gift Insider. It's going to be going out shortly. So if you sign up now, you'll be getting that edition next week. So you can sign up blueskyphilanthropy.com/subscribe. And I'm going to hop back to my comments here to see what other folks. Oh, yes, Arthur. Arthur is asking, should we expect an increase in donations at this time of year compared to other times of the year? Absolutely. I don't have the statistic in front of me, but for a lot of organizations, and folks here can weigh in who have more experience, what percentage of gifts do you typically get between now and the end of the year? I've heard all sorts of different percentages. I don't want to be throwing out anything that's inaccurate, but you will typically see a great increase between now and the end of the year in terms of your giving. Of course, I do want to note here that this is also largely driven by whatever you're doing in terms of your fundraising strategy, right? Is like, how are you asking folks for support? But definitely for most donors, not all donors, even for high net worth individual and major donors, the calendar year will come into play in terms of some of their decision making around giving. But yeah, if anyone has some feedback for Arthur around that in terms of what you see in your shop, what kind of percentage of gifts you see coming in between now and the end of the year, go ahead and share that. We love sharing, as I said, our collected wisdom here. All right, I see someone else, I think Nicole, saying this idea of building balance and boundaries by asking for help. Yes, I do. I love that. If like asking for help has been your one takeaway, I love it and I support it, because for a lot of clients that I work with, right, we do tend to take over responsibility for fundraising results. Can be a good and a bad thing, but when it swings over into the bad thing, that sense of over responsibility, it can look like not asking for help when it's appropriate and when we need it. So I love it. You're going to be building balance and putting those boundaries in place and asking for help. All right, my friends, I am going to wrap up now. This is actually our final live session of the year. So definitely, if you want to hear about sessions as we book them in for the new year, do go ahead and subscribe so we can keep in touch. And I want to wish you all of best of luck with your year-end fundraising. And please do take these ideas away and implement them, even if it's just one small one. It can make such a difference between now and the end of the year in terms of your major gift results. All right, my friends, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, especially at this busy time of year. I hope you found this helpful. And if you're catching up on the replay, please don't hesitate to drop your questions or comments. We always come back in to answer any follow-up questions or outstanding feedback. So please let us know. And please go ahead and drop the comment below. If you're catching up on the replay, you can use the hashtag replay. All right, my friends, we will talk soon. Best of luck to you.